All right, we are here today with Aaron Benton. Aaron is one of our loan officers out of our Hilton Head office down in South Carolina. So, Aaron, let's start out by talking about how you first got started in the mortgage industry.
My wife's uncle was getting a mortgage, and I was a high school math teacher, and I was looking something to do just different, if you will. I never had really heard of the mortgage industry, if you will. I knew it existed, but completely unfamiliar with it. And I just my wife's uncle said, "Let's have an interview, or you should talk to this gentleman rather, who is now my boss, David Kroll." And so, really, it was just an organic interview that really was the awkwardest interview you could ever have because it wasn't necessarily like, "Hey, come work for us." It was giving me the down and dirty of the mortgage industry, and this industry is rewarding, yes, but also challenging at times. So it was more of a, as I was getting a feel for the mortgage industry, he was also getting a feel of if I would actually be able to make it, if you will. And here we are, 8 years later, and I'm still here. So I guess something worked out. But just an organic conversation amongst family friends that led me here.
Yeah, that's an interesting transition from a high school math teacher to a loan officer.
It's not as different as you think because our world is pretty, the mortgage industry is education, right? And clients
Sure.
come to us, and instead of talking to adolescents about math, I'm just talking to adults about their pocketbook. And once you know it, the adults listen a little bit more intently.
That's true. That's a good point. So, in the 8 years you've been in the mortgage industry, how have you seen the mortgage industry change?
Wow, I've seen 2018 is when I started, and that was an interesting time because I was brought on a salaried position just to learn the industry, and that salary role lasted about 3 months, not by
Mhm.
choice, but because back in 2018 the mortgage industry was kind of bankrupting itself in an extent. Race to the bottom in terms of rates. I think margins were pretty low, and my salary job turned into a 100% commission job within 3 months. So that was kind of a sink or swim. Uh, we made it. We made it out, and then 2020 was COVID. And as you know, from an interest rate perspective, that was built-in refinances of friends, family, and that was a huge kickstart. So timing was everything in my world. I had enough wherewithal within the first 2 years to have a little bit of a client base, and then friends and family helped me out in COVID with refinances and past clients to now, as you know, rates have been a little bit higher than, of course, where we were at historical levels. But I'm established, so therefore, the referral network is stronger now than, of course, it was a few years ago. So things are going well, but as you can tell, it's certainly been a roller coaster from higher rates to historically low rates to now we're higher and hopefully ticking down.
So, looking back, what's something that you wish someone had told you before you started out as a loan officer or in your early days that you wish you had known?
I don't think what I'm about to tell you does not impact my decision whatsoever. I would absolutely choose this profession 10 out of 10 times. I do think that the need as a teacher, I was working pretty much, 9 to 5, if you will. It was a very structured job. You left the school, your job was pretty much done. You weren't anticipating phone calls, obviously, from parents or students or anything like that. In this industry, your availability, it does, you have to be available. And what I mean is, like, our clients have jobs, so they're going to work until 5:30, and sometimes that's the only time that works for them. So I'm cutting into my own family time, if you will, at nights, weekends. And again, I wouldn't trade it. I just would say that there's some flexibility that needs to take place with the scheduling, and
Mhm.
and that is something that I came from a completely different world.
Yeah. So, what has been the most rewarding part about being a loan officer and being able to help people through the home buying process?
I had two stories that I could share with you. I won't, but they just happened this past week. I have a closing that took place yesterday and a closing that's taking place this Friday. And the joy is seeing you get to the finish line, but understanding when clients come to you, you as a loan officer can be very creative, and you can see the finish line off in the distance. You know the steps that you have to take to get there. It might be an elaborate plan. However, being able to convey that information to somebody in a manner that they're A, they understand it, and B, they trust you, right? Because they don't write mortgages. They don't
Mhm.
understand all the inner workings of what has to be done just for them to qualify. So when you jump through those hoops, if you will, and you build the game plan, and you have somebody 60 days, maybe 6 months away from the closing table, and they trust everything that you're saying, and they believe that what you're telling them will work, and then it works, and here you are at the finish line, and they're all excited at the closing table with the keys in hand. That's the moment, right? That is when it
Mhm.
really clicks that you made a big difference.
Yeah, definitely. So how do you build that trust with clients? They may be first-time home buyers or just someone who had a bad experience in the past who are just feeling like really nervous and overwhelmed by the process.
I think my education background really helps with that. I think the ability to educate. I think a lot of times people will people become stagnant and timid because they don't know everything, and they're not supposed to know. They don't need to know everything, I should say. However, there are numbers and concepts that they must be aware of, and in our market here in Hilton Head, condominiums, flood insurance, HOAs, there are things unique to our market that in fairness, an out of town lender, it's not a knock on them, but they're not going to know the things that are going on in my backyard. And so I think that when we're able to educate clients on the area that they're buying in, B, some of the programs that are out there in terms of first time home buyer or lower down payment amounts or lower loan amounts, having incentives for better interest rates, things of that nature. Uh, Once you're able to educate, the the client is absolutely understanding that you know what you're talking about and are absolutely more willing to trust you and follow your lead because your ability to educate and your confidence, if you will, in what you're saying, it, it just absolutely radiates through you, so they
Mhm.
hop on board.
And do you have any different approach that you take when working with a first-time home buyer versus someone who is a repeat buyer?
So I tend to do things a little bit, maybe a little bit differently or old school. Of course, we have the online application that we utilize, but that I also will take online. I will also take applications over the phone. And even if someone fills out an online application, I have to have a conversation with them verbally, just so I understand the application, just so I understand where they're coming from and their goals, right? And so every call will start with a thousand feet, 1,000 feet above view. What are your goals? What are you trying to achieve? What is the long-term plan, right? Because depending on goals, different products and different structures or strategies are going to be more prevalent and make sense. So once I understand what their goal is, now again, maybe from an investment property to a second home. Again, these are seasoned buyers at that point or a first-time home buyer. I'm going to be able to know very quickly in that conversation of kind of some of the gaps that I need to fill in. Of course, I'm always available for questions, but I've I've never felt harm in over educating. So if they've bought multiple times, they still might get an earful, and that earful is nothing but education. But I would absolutely rather err on the side of over education than just simply not saying anything at all. I think that a lack of education and a lack of understanding is what leads people to uh, really an unfortunate and discouraging process at the finish line, right? Our goal is
Mhm.
to get everything out, organized, and understood pretty much before they even go under contract. I mean, they need to understand the numbers.
Yeah. Absolutely. So, can you share about a memorable loan experience that has stood out to you?
Experience. Yeah, I had a lady. I'll use the story. She had a bankruptcy, and she was told by multiple lenders that the answer was no and that she couldn't do it. And unfortunately she got some pretty negative advice, and that was 6 months ago. And essentially, we took her. I walked her through a game plan, walked her through timelines, and presented numbers and things of that nature. And here we are. She closed yesterday, and really it was nothing more than she got some bad information. So being able to build that trust that even though what I was saying was different than what she had previously heard, it was I'm not going to say it was challenging to get that buy-in. I think that we met face to face, believe it or not, and I think that helped a lot as well in terms of the okay, you really understand what you're talking about, and I want to do this with you. But that's the piece is really just understand. And again, as loan officers, we're not going to know everything when someone walks in the door, but
Mhm.
tremendous resources here at North Point, tremendous ability to research topics, run topics to the ground. The biggest fear in my world is to say no to somebody who should have got a yes. So those people, I always make the comment, the hardest loans, or I should say, the time most spent on a loan are normally the ones that I can't write because I am trying every single scenario before I say no. And after a while, I run into so many dead ends. I go, there isn't actually a way. Now, the beauty in that is if they went down the street, the answer will also be no.
Mhm.
Uh, but that's the moral story is that I try every single thing that I can before giving a no.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great, and that definitely goes back to helping people trust you and building that trust with clients. Because if you're showing that putting that time in and showing them that you care, it may be a no now, but 6 months from now, a year from now, they may be in a different situation, be able to come back to you, and then it can be a yes.
Absolutely.
So, what do you think is one of the biggest misconceptions people have about getting a mortgage?
I think everyone's experience is a little bit different. There's obviously paperwork that we need to get. We don't decide the paperwork, right? These are government regulations. Uh, People will sometimes say that the process uh, can be tedious and cumbersome. I don't feel I feel that every piece of paper that we ask for, uh, it makes sense and it warrants it. The request is warranted. and and I have no problem explaining to somebody of why we would need X piece of paper, if you will, or X document. And I think that is one of those situations where people will say, I've heard the expression before, right? Like I have to give my left kidney in order to get a loan, and it. Of course, it feels like you're giving a lot, but if your life is complex, maybe you own multiple businesses, multiple investment properties, things of that nature, we need to get paperwork pretty much to verify, validate all of that, right? Because we're just trying to crack a formula, if you will,
Mhm.
and the paperwork is what tells the story. So I have some people. Actually, it was just today. I had a client say that he was surprised at how easy the process was, and I think that his expectation was is that we were going to drag him through the mud and beat him up on paperwork, but really all he did was listen to what we asked for. He was responsive, and here we are, about 30 days from contract. We're going to be closing later this week, and he's very happy, and it's
Mhm.
simply because we didn't over ask for any paperwork. We were very very efficient in our requests, and he just followed directions. So all in all, he had a great experience.
Mhm. Yeah. So you've seen a lot of ups and downs in the market since you've been in the industry with COVID and then everything that's come after that. So how do you stay motivated and keep your momentum going when there are really slow times in the market?
I always feel like there's something that can be done. Whether that is reaching out to your referral partners, whether that's talking to listing agents just to give them updates, whether it's being more in tune with your clients during the process, right? Just giving even them more updates. Now, I feel like we do a really good job of giving those updates, but I never felt that I never feel that over communicating is bad. I'm always looking for new ways to improve, right? I just think that I don't think I have like the secret sauce, if you will, to be. I think that I'm good at what I do. I take tremendous pride in that and the communication. But to say that I'm perfect would be ridiculous. And I think that I'm always looking for ways to improve, and that might just be researching guidelines, again, communicating, looking for ways to expand my business, and also I lean heavily on my support team. I'll ask for their feedback. More ideas, the better. So I don't really find myself ever slow because if I am slow, uh, that just simply means that I'm not working.
Mhm.
I can certainly be doing something.
Yeah, definitely. And are there any specific trends or shifts in the mortgage industry happening right now that you're kind of keeping an eye on?
Trends. trends? What am I seeing in the mortgage industry? I'm seeing, I think the non-QM space has gotten a lot of traction lately. We at North Point have tremendous amount in a variety of product, whether it's going to be bank statement loans, DSCR loans. We have a tax ID loan, a loan for individuals with an ITIN, if you will. So the idea of just the conventional financing down the middle, mainstream lending. Uh, Again, this probably goes back to what I was saying. In order for me to say no, I'm exploring all of these options, and so I do think that non-QM has gained tremendous traction here, and for good reason. Everyone's scenario is different, and not. It would be unfair to think that we can fit the entire country into these lending boxes of mainstream lending, if you will. So the non-QM space has opened up a great deal of opportunity, and I readily use the non-QM products when presented.
So, where do you see the mortgage industry heading in the next 5 to 10 years?
I think our industry is very tech driven, right? I think you're seeing a huge influx of AI. I think that what people need to recognize is that at the end of the day, when you're handling when someone else is handling your money and giving you advice, you still want human and you want people interaction. And the idea of maybe going online and just filling out an application online and clicking a button and saying, okay, I'm done. I do believe that the industry has made it so that everything is about necessarily speed. We are very fast here at North Point, but I would also say that not only are we fast, but we're relationship driven. I don't want the industry to lose that. I always get fearful when someone says, "Oh yeah, I'm just going to fill out the online application. I'm going to throw in my documents, and I should be good to go." Uh, I don't believe that to be the case. Like I said earlier, I'm going to have that conversation with them to understand what they want and what they need, because ultimately what someone puts into a loan application might not necessarily fit mortgage guidelines. And so that human touch, that human interaction, I do believe that I don't want that to disappear. Like I said, I think AI is certainly playing a larger role in the mortgage industry. I think it's playing a larger role in a lot of our industry, if you will, just far beyond the mortgage world. But I don't want there to be, which I'm fearful of, I don't want there to be a human element that is lost.
Mhm. Yeah, definitely. So, talking specifically about North Point as a mortgage company, what do you feel sets North Point apart from other lenders?
It's a great question. I would say so. I came here, as you know, I have been with North Point for not quite a year yet. But the reason I jumped, I used to be with a national company, and I always felt that in order to get answers, it took me a while, if you will, to get answers. And in a fast-moving marketplace, or your clients or your referral partners, they want answers fast. So at North Point, it's regionalized, right? It's smaller. We're more or less licensed up and down the East Coast, in which case I can get on the phone with an underwriter pretty much within 30 seconds to a minute. And that kind of speed and communication allows me to best advise my clients in a very timely manner. If there's a multiple offer situation or the client is just very intrigued in that specific property, they don't want to wait days, if you will, to get a response. So I do think that here at North Point, with it being that tailor individualized approach that we take, and being a little bit smaller, is allowing us to best serve our clients. I also think that the product selection that we have here, whether it be your mainstream lending, conventional VA, FHA, but really the non-QM space that I talked about. We also have a broker arm. So when someone comes into me, I think that we have a tremendous amount of options to serve pretty much every client that would call in. I'm excited for all those conversations, because I really do think that I have an opportunity to work efficiently and work quickly for them, and of course then lay on that personal touch that we take a lot of pride in.
So, then how do you personally, as a loan officer, stand out from all the other loan officers in the market?
I think that I have a really good follow up. like I said, we have a phone conversation. So if someone just went online and filled out an application, I'm really no different than an online lender that you're never going to talk to. Uh, we have a conversation. I understand their situation. Sometimes we talk about things that, like, however the conversation unfolds, we'll talk about things other than just a mortgage, if you will, right? There might be common interests, things like that, that kind of just strengthens the relationship. But I have a follow-up. I utilize a couple tools that allows me to provide numbers to clients right after we speak. And so essentially after we talk, rather than them focusing on what I'm saying, I want them to focus on what I'm saying when we speak rather than focus on jotting everything down. After we speak, I send them a recap that's got the numbers that we talked about. And then that way, if I say I hypothetically I talk to the husband and he wants to then go home and convey that to his wife, I would have put him in a terrible position to try to regurgitate everything that I had to say. So by providing the numbers in a presentation, I kind of take out the middleman and I put that individual in a much better position because they can easily convey that because they have paper or a presentation, if you will, that they can lean on.
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely. All right. Are you ready for some more fun rapid fire questions?
I mean, I don't think I have a choice, so lay them on me.
All right, here we go. We'll start out easy. Dogs or cats?
Dogs.
Okay. Do you have a dog?
Yeah, his name's Moose. He's not here right now. We adopted him and I don't even know. He's like 7 years old and he takes really good pride and takes really good care of my 2-year-old kids. I have twins.
That's awesome. All right. Coffee or tea?
Tea.
Okay.
I do not drink coffee. I rarely drink caffeine.
Wow, that's surprising for a loan officer. All right, what is your favorite Hilton Head restaurant?
Man, and you're gonna publish that one. Let me think. I think Hudson's has tremendous food.
Okay.
Hudson's has tremendous
Are you a early bird or a night owl?
food. These are tough for rapid fire. I mean, I'll say early bird.
Okay. What is your dream vacation destination?
My wife and I went to Italy about 4 years ago, and we've always said that we could go back and do that same trip over and over again. We did the Amalfi Coast, and like I said, we could do that trip over and over again. So we'll go with Italy and the Amalfi Coast.
All right. Do you have a favorite quote or motto?
I heard a really good one the other day. Uh, uh, I work out at Burn Boot Camp. I don't know if that's prevalent where you are, but it's the quote was about working out. It was talking about not only are you adding years to your life, but you're adding life to your years.
Hmm.
And so I try to be active and I try to be vibrant because, I want those years to be lively.
Yeah, that's a great one. All right. Who is your favorite musician or band?
I really like Blink 182.
Okay.
I would be into that. I don't want to say punk rock, but alternative genre, if you will.
What is one thing people would be surprised to learn about you?
I have no idea. That's a tough question. Uh, what would be someone? I played 3 sports in high school: basketball, baseball, and football.
Okay, that's pretty impressive.
Sure.
Pizza or tacos?
Pizza.
And if you weren't a loan officer, what would you be doing instead?
I might be a real estate agent.
Okay.
I really would. I've done the teaching world. I don't think I would go back. I think that has a lot of structure. I really enjoy you kind of make your own schedule, if you will, as a loan officer. And I do think that a real estate agent, the only downside to being a real estate agent that I would see is I was saying, hey, I had to work a little bit on the weekends. I think real estate agents work odd hours all the time, and
Hmm.
that might be a little tough for me. But I could at least give it a shot.
Yeah. All right, Aaron. Well, that is all my questions. Thanks so much for your time.
Sure. Thanks for having me.